And there's the speed and the power of Gamboa.
This the Gamboa we want to see. A guy who gambles and goes for the knockout.
Gamboa just picking apart Jorge Solis. And down goes Solis. And that is the end of round number 3. Oh, right hand puts down Solis. 4th time he's been down. Solis off balance.
Remember how good he used to be?
Measure him up and comes in with power shots again. Left hand hurts Solis. Right hand combination.
You know, even though, you know, inactivity and that whole what was it, the Balco scandal had his name up in there. You know, just you just never know with Gamboa. But now the man's almost 40 years old, right? 37 years old. You know, and then remember he's Cuban, so no telling how old he really is for real, for real. But I'll go with 37. 29 and only 2 losses with 17 KOs. But if you look at ever since Terrence Crawford, he's been trying to find himself between 130 and 135, and then he had that disaster against Robinson Castellanos in that stint over there with Golden Boy. You know, people would say he just hasn't been the same since the alleged juice. Remember, he was with 50 Cent at one point in time, got 50 Cent coming down from the ceiling and shit. But he's rumored, and it's been rumored for quite some time now. I remember doing a video on this months ago that he's going to be fighting Tank Davis July the 27th down in Baltimore. Now, it's been heavily talked about. Even Tank Davis talked about that his next fight, you know, after his last fight. What's his last fight again? Hugo Ruiz. You know, we knew because he was telling his next fight after that was going to be home in Baltimore. So we're going to talk about several things during this video. We're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about Loma versus Crolla. And what else did I have on my list? Quillin versus Caleb Truax. So let's just say this. Listen, I like this fight. I like Tank Davis versus Yuriorkis Gamboa because he is going in there with an experienced veteran, and we know we're going to get a better fight than we got against Hugo Ruiz, you know, against Jesus Cuellar. And they were actually talking about Gamboa versus Cuellar at one point in time, too. You know, Francisco Fonseca, even though that was, you know, had a little bit of controversy in it. But I want to see him against, you know, Gamboa, and if Gamboa just shows up just a little bit of his old self, you know, we're going to be in for a competitive fight. And it's the name, you know. I want to see it. And when you look at where Tank Davis is, for one, he's got to make weight, right? Because he don't want to go to 135. His promoters, Mayweather and it'll be openly say they don't want him versus Tank Davis, not in those, Loma, not in those exact words. And we know that difficulties in the political difficulties in boxing to make that fight because of Bob Arum versus Mayweather and vice versa, all that mumbo jumbo. But after, you know, there's even talks of maybe him versus Javier Fortuna. You got Lee Selby, who's a top Al Heyman fighter, who's now at 130 pounds. You know? So Tank Davis does have some options over there. And you see I'm not mentioning Tevin Farmer because that ain't going to happen because of the political shit. Anyway, moving on. I'm TstreeT Controversy. This is TstreeT Controversy Live. Let's talk some about Peter Quillin versus Caleb Truax, a fight that nobody's really talking about. It's going to be on Fox Sports 1 with a nice-ass undercard with Sergiy Derevyanchenko, who fought Danny Jacobs in his last fight, versus Jack Culcay, who fought Demetrius Andrade in Andrade's last fight at 154, and Andrade didn't look too good. But we'll be right back in about a millisecond.
Quillin, a former WBO middleweight champ, is 34-1-1 and highly respected in the sport of boxing. Despite his accomplishments, Kid Chocolate is still motivated to step in the ring.
I fight because it's the only way to express my whole life and describe how you have to, you know, fight through the battles and overcome. Whether you lose or you win, you have to still fight on. So the best way for me to express that is by boxing. I think it's also a special platform that God has allowed me to have to be able to motivate and inspire people that's trying to do the same thing, similar thing that I'm doing. I think the battle really is an everyday battle. It's a battle of doubt. you know, get up. Are you doubting you should get up or not? Are you doubting that you should stay in the bed?
You know, it's not just me saying it. A lot of fans feel that Peter Quillin's career has not been the same since he decided to drop his title and not fight Matvey Korobov. After then, it just was just a string of bad luck. But now he's back, and he's on the verge of a title shot. If he was to beat former 168-pound champion Quillin Truax, remember those 2 fights with James DeGale. One of them, the first one, he beat the shit out of James DeGale. The second one was war. As you know, James DeGale has since retired. So when you look at the situation Peter Quillin is in, if he were to win, he would likely be getting Caleb Plant. And Caleb Plant, IBF champion, the winner of that will likely get the winner of Anthony Durrell, David Benavidez. Avni Yildirim is the mandatory. 168 pounds is pretty stacked. You know, you have Billy Joe Saunders up there as well. Remember, Ant Durrell, right? He has to fight David Benavidez when he returns. David Benavidez is the WBC interim champion. You might as well say he is the champion, and Anthony Durrell is the interim champion because the WBC wouldn't strip David Benavidez because, you know, cocaine, recreational drug. You know, he's a kid. He couldn't keep his nose clean. Chris Eubank Jr. surprisingly ranked high by the WBC and all the sanctioning bodies. Caleb Smith is the WBA Super World Champion, but don't expect for him to get any fights with those guys. He's in talks with Gilberto Ramirez, possibly. Unless the IBF orders Peter Quillin or Caleb Truax, that winner, to fight Vincent Feigenboots, this guy right here, number 3. I got to go check him out and do some research on him. Then very likely, you know, Peter Quillin and Truax winner could be the mandatory for, I'm going to have to check this guy out, for Caleb Plant. And Billy Joe Saunders is taking on, what was that? Billy Joe Saunders is taking on Shifat Isufi for the WBO interim title. And Gilberto Ramirez is at 175 right now. He's going to face Tommy Carpinci tonight. It's April the 12th, 2019. 11:25 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, but it's looking like he's going to go back down to face Callum Smith, as we talked about earlier in the video. And that's the 168-pound division. Now, in my opinion, Peter Quillin does have the skills, and he is the favorite to beat Caleb Truax. But Caleb Truax is not just that journeyman B-side, C-side, D-side he used to be. He's gotten a lot better in what he what he does in going out there and being a pressure fighter. 34-4-2. Remember, he fought, you know, Danny Jacobs. You know, who else did he fight that I covered years ago? Jermaine Taylor. That was ESPN, wasn't it? When was that? That was an ESPN fight, wasn't it? He's been around and fighting a lot, you know. And he's the naturally bigger fighter, correct? And then Peter Quillin. Campaigning at Peter Quillin used to fight at 154 at one point in time, right? I remember. Did he not? Early in his career? Nope. Who was that? What am I thinking about? Peter Quillin is huge, though. And he's 35 years old. I didn't know he was that old. Not old. I'm 35. We're not old. But I'm saying, like, for boxing, damn, Peter, y'all got some. Hey, man, Caleb Truax. Yeah, it's time, bro. And, you know, he's been up and down since that loss to Danny Jacobs. Meaning, like, not up and down, but, like, inconsistency on what he's going to do. News about who he may fight and when. You know, this fight is important. We'll be right back. Moving on to the next topic. I'm TstreeT Controversy. This is TstreeT Controversy Live. Please subscribe.